It's easy to get lost. This is The Revenue Maze, and I'm Valerie Cobb. Join me as we navigate the halls, dead ends, and U-turns on our path towards upward growth trajectory. The Revenue Maze is sponsored by Lodestar URY, guidance and execution through fractional revenue leadership, uncovering hidden revenue streams, and empowering small business growth through process-driven sales. Welcome everybody today to the Revenue Maze. I have a super exciting guest. I'm excited about this one. So she is a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, Ohio Society of Certified Public Accountants, or CPA, proven expertise in driving efficiency and productivity, and I know this firsthand, through evaluation of financial management systems and implementation of process improvements. She's a fractional integrator, COO at Entrepreneurial Advisory Institute. Welcome today, Sharon Means. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Valerie. How are you?
I'm good. Barring some technical difficulties,
Yeah,
but doing pretty good. And you know how that goes. Okay, we always do this on the Revenue Maze. So I always have to come out and ask, before we get more into what you do and how you do it, I just want to know one thing. What is one thing you can tell our audience that they can do to get out of the Revenue Maze?
Well, thank you for asking. It's such a great question. And well, I mean, as you said, I'm a CPA. And so my thought would be that you need to really have a plan. And that plan is a budget. And you have to know where you're going. It has to be a roadmap of what kind of revenue that you are looking for. And from there, just a host of other things to keep yourself on track. And so that the company knows where it's going and everybody's rowing all in the same direction.
Oh my gosh, you're preaching to the choir. So what are some ways that they could maybe do that? Because that is so important.
It's very important. You get yourself a good app, and we use QuickBooks budgeting tool in the app, and you just kind of like decide, as a company, either the fractional sales professional or, the owner of the company, whoever, to decide what would our revenue goals be? What did we do last year? What do we need to do this year? What are the things that we're planning on? Different leads that we might have, different opportunities. And then from there, just kind of crafting a good framework of what you want to do in the coming year. And I also work with companies that are implementing EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. So from there, you kind of chunk down to like what you want to do. What does that mean for the year? Okay, what does that mean for each quarter? And then how are we going to track our progress on that so that we know that we're hitting our goals and where we want to go. And even extrapolating from that, I know you can do a one-year budget, but in the OS, we also do something called a 3-year plan and a 10-year target. And so that can all be built upon, again, the budget for this year and where do we want to go. And I just feel like if you don't know where you're going and you don't have any kind of idea, it's a recipe for disaster.
That is so true. I quote this quite a bit with a lot of people, but I love Alice in Wonderland, and I probably misquote it all the time, but I love when Alice is asking the Cheshire Cat, where do I go? And he's like, well, where do you want to go? And, and she says, I don't know. And he goes, well, then it doesn't matter. Right?
Exactly.
I think
exactly.
That it doesn't matter.
Yes. Exactly. And it takes a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of work on the front end to find these things out. But, then, you have an idea and a roadmap of everything kind of just falls into place after that of what you want to do.
Don't you just kind of think sometimes too, it can be overwhelming for small businesses?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is very overwhelming, but I think you don't want to let the perfectionism get in the way. So I think a lot of people think that it needs to be a perfect budget or a perfect revenue target. And it doesn't have to be. It just has to be your best guess let's just put something down. Let's see how we did last year. Let's, extrapolate that out for this year. And then, you get better at it. It gets easier. It's almost like, when you work out and you build up muscle and, it's like muscle memory, and you'll just get better at it as time goes on.
Yeah, it's just, sometimes it feels a bit like they need that roadmap and they're not sure, especially small business owners, exactly where to start with it, right? You're like, it gets easier. But when I think about those, and I also work a lot in forecasting and numbers and stuff, I think one of the biggest hurdles that I've heard is just how to start it. It's like, yeah, I need to do it. I need to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to start it. And I don't know what numbers, I don't know what to track. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's,
yes. Well,
and
that's a big part of it. Yes.
They get nervous even in front of, you're a CPA. It's like, oh, maybe I'm saying the wrong term or the wrong word or that.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I really do think it comes down to, seeing what you're comfortable with, what maybe you did last year. I mean, you kind of have to just put some logic behind it and just try to make your best educated guess. And, you start with the revenue and then it flows all the way down the rest of the P&L to your different line items. But that's really valuable because then you can plan the rest of it. If you think your revenue goal is going to be $1 million next year and you're at $500,000 this year, well, then that also means I've got to hire people. Maybe we need to expand our offices. There'll be more expenses in general for benefits and things like that. So that way you're planning for it and okay, well, we are going to need a new, person in 3 to 6 months, or when we hit this revenue number, we're going to need to maybe outsource our marketing, or we're going to need to get an actual accountant in instead of, what we've been cobbling together, and systems in place, and it just yada, 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 it goes down the line. But like I was saying with, when you're doing an EOS framework, not only do you do that, but then you kind of chunk it down into like a measurable and a scorecard so that, you've got a big number and it's maybe on a quarterly basis, but then what are we tracking so we know we're getting to that number, so that also it's not just a theoretical number, but if we want to get $100,000 of businesses, how many people do we need to talk to? Do we need to talk to 10 people? Do we need to talk to 20 people? What's our closing rate? And I know those are all very difficult but if you can just start tracking it, then you get a better sense of where you are, if you're going to hit your goals, what you maybe need to tweak or change. Another big thing I see is that people have different lines of businesses. I work a lot with different service industries, and people will put a lot of stock in one side of their service plan and realize that they spend way too much money servicing those clients. So the profit margin is just so low. It's just non-existent. And the other things that they think are just not valuable are really their money makers. And so again, when you budget out things and you say, okay, well, this person works on this client or this, whatever the case may be, you really get an idea of, again, maybe you don't need that service line. And maybe just because you want $1 million in revenue, that doesn't translate to the profit level that you're looking for.
Yeah. You're as a counterpart to some of the stuff that I do, what you do is so validating for a lot of reasons, right? And I have to say, there was a time in my life it just felt so daunting, and in revenue, I have to do their 5-year, and I've got to see where they need to go down to the human counts and the whole 9 yards, right? And one of the things that I really struggled with back in a few years ago was just feeling that overwhelmed. I mean, I sold tax and accounting software. I knew what numbers were, but you just felt so overwhelmed. And then at some point it was like, it was like reading Greek. And I had a really great mentor that was very much like you. And just that person could tell a story with numbers that no matter how much you verbally said it, never made sense till someone saw those numbers. And it doesn't mean it solves the problem, but what it does is it alerts you early on what a problem might be.
Yes.
And just helps you plan so much better. And I used to call that person a maestro, like with numbers, like he made music with numbers. And my kids look at a spreadsheet and they're like, what does this all mean, Mom? And I'm like, oh, can't you see? There's a problem right here. And they're like, huh? What am I seeing? So what you're describing
Yep.
is something that I would think people should be super excited about, but they always kind of say something like, well, we don't want analysis by paralysis. Now I'll use sales teams for sure. They're the ones that I don't want to analyze. I want to be out selling and and isn't it funny? Because what you just described to me is more, don't overanalyze, get a plan and choose a couple of things that you're marking to get your baseline or whatever. And then reset every quarter or whatever you need to do. Correct. To see if you're on the right track. And that sounds bite-sizable to me.
That's exactly what I like about it, because, like you said, it's very daunting. And when you're trying to, and then you always get to the point too, if you get something that isn't like scalable or you're not measuring it, it's because at the end of the year, you're just like, oh, we didn't hit the revenue numbers because nobody's tracking it. Nobody knows where we are. Nobody's, asking the questions of, hey, did we talk to this client again? Do they need help? They had help last year. That was part of, and when you can chunk it down so that it's quarterly, it's easier to manage. And you have like real things that you're tracking and, hey, we're supposed to talk to 5 clients this week. Did you talk to them? Because the 5 turns into 2 business deals and, yada, yada. So it just really, I just think it's a much better way to go. It's not so overwhelming.
Yeah. Because the 30 days, I think I quote Jeb Blam, but the 30-90 rule, 30 days delay or good stuff in a pipeline means 90 days down the road, something either stalls or spits out, right? I mean, that's
exactly.
And exactly when you can pivot on it. But the other thing that you said that was, sort of almost what I would call relief is obviously in leadership, everybody's touting you should have great visibility and you should tell, as a leader, you should tell if there's problems. And we came through COVID, right? And there was a lot of talk of maybe we don't tell people there's a problem, maybe we don't do this, but with the visibility you're talking about, they can pivot better. If they're not waiting to the end of the year to see if they're missed, oh, well, we just didn't make our goal. Great.
Right.
It's first and present every single day.
Yes.
Then most of them feel relief because if they don't know, they just wonder, right? Yes. And then anxiety happens and everybody's kind of going, are we going to get fired? Are we going to lose our job? Are we doing okay? On the flip side, are we doing okay? Do I have a good future? What's going on? And a lot of small businesses hold that so close to the vest because they don't want to disappoint.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it empowers people to make better decisions.
Well, it's also, they can help.
Exactly.
If they know that, we need to pivot on something because it's not going the way that we thought in a quarter, then people have ideas and they can come to the leadership and say, hey, I've got kind of an out of the box idea, or, hey, I'd like to, help with something along these lines. I just think that's very, you want the full force of your company, all the brain power in it to help you. And I think when they're given that knowledge and they're given those ideas, then, then they can help you.
Amazing. I am reminded of the Jack Stack story of the nuns in the school bus. I use it all the time. I don't know. I probably told you that, but do you know that story?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, so Great Game of Business is a different operating system, but it's and Jack Stack, and I've been fortunate to work on a lot of full-time equivalent companies where they've had different operating systems, and EOS is one of them. Great system. But he tells the story about back in, I don't even remember if it's the 60s or the 70s, and anybody listening, please don't shoot me if I've got my facts completely wrong. But the gist of the story is, there was a lot in Detroit. There was a lot of picketing for steel back in those days, and their entire plant was needing steel or they were going to miss deadlines, and they basically went to the company and said, this is what the problem is, that the leaders and the whole group, all the people on the line, everything. And they said, this is what our problem is. And we're going to miss deadlines, and we're going to be in trouble because of it, because we've got fines if we don't deliver on time. Right. And so the group came up with the idea of dressing up someone as a nun in a school bus to haul steel in, because the picketers wouldn't stop a nun driving a school bus.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's an incredible story, because it isn't a top-down story. It's hey, we're all going to be in trouble. What should we do? And so they got together. Yeah. And they figured it out, and they hit their targets, and yay, all that kind of stuff. But so, when you're talking about having that budget, having people own that budget and understand it, that's so cool. So let's talk a little bit more about how you guys kind of got to this point of, okay, I need this budget. At first you were probably not just, oh gosh, all companies need, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. So, I think I bring it back to just EOS and how, when you would sit down and have in the beginning, your meetings or your quarterly meetings, you need to have, revenue targets and profit targets and measurables for obtaining those. And if you don't at first have a good budget, you're kind of, just at the mercy of, the leadership team thinks this is what we should do for the year, or the leadership team thinks, this is what we should track. And if we first start off with some good numbers and, we can get the budget done, then you can say, well, this is what we've budgeted for the quarter, and the things that we need to track are X, and we're going to put them on a scorecard, and we meet weekly. And that kind of was like a light bulb of, budgeting is not just for, you do it in the beginning of the year and then you forget about it. But the way it rolls is that, you're looking at it quarterly, you're trying to figure out, where we need to pivot, where we need to kind of shore up, or, hey, we're doing really great, and what do we need to do about that as well? Not just the, lean times, but, when things are going well, we also need to navigate for that.
Sure. Yeah. It kind of translates, you have either marketing, service, or sales, or whatever or new product under the revenue arm. And when they're talking about quota, they all run, right? It's like, that's what they're hired to do, is bring in, but they run. And what you just described to me is more of a bottom up, top down, squish them in the middle kind of thing. And so you get buy-in, right?
Absolutely. That's so key, is the buy-in, and not just somebody telling you, this is what you need to do. Because when you buy in, then you work hard at it, because you're like, okay, I see it and I want that to happen.
Yeah. And I would think that then, with all the visibility and all of the buy-in, that the company is that whole cultural health that everybody's after right now,
Yes.
Especially in this job market, right? People want to be happy in what they're doing. They want to know what they're doing. They're not drones. And
people should be happy in what they're doing. If you're not happy in what you're doing, find something else, because there's other places for you to be and be happy.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's key. And if the culture fit isn't right for you, that's a big deal, and you're not going to be able to force your way out of that. It either is a good fit or it isn't. We have a phrase in EOS on, you do an accountability chart, which is everybody in the company has a seat and what they're responsible for, their top 3 to 5 items that they really need to focus on. And there's a thing called right people, right seats. And, there are people that are the right people in the organization, but they're in the wrong seat, they're in the wrong position. Or there's just people that don't fit in your company and they could be doing a great job in their seat, but they're toxic, or, they just are, miss deadlines all the time, just aren't the right person. So that's a great concept, is that, hey, if it's not a good cultural fit, and if you don't have a good culture, then you're definitely not going to have people stay. But also you want the people that fit with your culture, so that everybody's kind of knows where we're going and we're all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, I've used that years ago when I had read Traction.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how long ago it was. I always used I blended right seats on the bus, the right
Yes.
seats on the bus, right?
Yes.
And what you're describing, really, it's not, it's very just it's intuitive versus counterintuitive, right? It's like,
Right.
if you want an organization, if you want people to thrive in an organization, they need to fit the organization as much as anything else. We added that kind of as that behavioral interview guide, so that it does fit into the culture, because then you end up with the topic of the show, revenue. It costs a ton of money to rehire people.
So much money.
So
yes. Well, and the training, I mean, you spend so much time, the investment of your employees to get them up to speed and to make sure that they are doing things the way you want them to do it, in the right way and all that. And to mishire or have someone leave it's a big deal. And, you want to definitely mitigate that, because again, it's not going to help you get to where you need to go.
On the sales side, it also costs the revenue that they could have been generating the whole
Absolutely
time while you're training them at that too, because that's
very true.
There's not a stopgap there. So there's a whole nother podcast on that one. I'm not even going to get into that one, but
not today.
Sharon, let's go back just a little bit in time, because you became an EOS integrator, but what kind of drove you to all of what you do in life? People want to hear more about you and why, what makes you tick and why you chose this path.
Yeah. So I have been working with small to medium-sized businesses my whole career. I started out, got my CPA, became a controller for small to medium-sized businesses. And about 10 years ago, took a position at an accounting firm. We do outsourced accounting. And from that, we, worked with, again, I was the controller for some of those smaller companies, and became the COO at the accounting firm. I went to an accounting conference, and someone was speaking about Traction by Gino Wickman and Rocket Fuel, and not about EOS specifically, but just about the books and how they integrated them into their organization. And so I got done with the conference and I brought it back to our leadership, and I was like, wow, I really think that this is something. And then as you do, you hear then, oh, so-and-so implemented this and so-and-so implemented. Oh yeah, talk to so-and-so. So one of my good friends, he had an accounting firm that he was a partner in, and he had self-implemented for himself. And he wanted to become an implementer. So he helped us implement at the accounting firm. And what I realized is that, after reading Traction, is that I've just been a natural integrator my whole life. I'm a natural, an integrator is the person who gets things done. Yeah. So, there's the CEO of the company, the visionary, and they're the ones that have the big vision, and, they've got all these ideas. And then I'm the person that gets things done. I'm the COO, and I'm the person that holds people accountable. I'm the person that everyone comes to kind of get the vision of the visionary and the company and make it a reality. And by, again, chunking out into little quarterly pieces. And so I really just kind of found that was a natural fit for myself. And so we offered fractional integration to a couple of our clients. And now I'm doing that for other companies as well that can't afford or don't have someone in the organization that really wants to step up and do that kind of role. Because not everybody, we say in EOS, you either get it, want it, and capacity to do it. And if you don't have those three things, if you're overwhelmed, if you just aren't that kind of natural integrator, then you need to look outside the company. And so that's where I come in. And I come in and I help people and help companies and work with visionaries to make it a reality.
Yeah, that's really cool, because I remember it was a business coach at one point said, hey, you should read Traction. And I remember taking 9 pages of notes, going through it, it was back, and I don't know that they were so systematized that they were set up as an operating system at the time. Maybe they were, I wouldn't have had knowledge of it, but it's, it just makes a lot of common sense, and it fits hand in hand with what you do as an accountant, because you really do need to know how to complete all those tasks, because there's a lot of visionaries out there in small businesses and they can't figure out how to repeat what they do to their employees. So as they try to scale, I can see completely the need in the industry for that kind of help. And the great thing is it really is economical. I mean, the return on investment is just like, wow, for sure. Yeah. So
I think
go ahead.
It's very helpful because, like visionaries, they just have these big visions all the time. And, my part of my job is to say, hey, what we do is on a quarterly basis, we set what are called rocks. And, those are the things that the company has decided are important and we need to focus on. And when the visionary comes and says, well, I've got this great new shiny idea, you say, okay, this is what we decided this quarter, because these are the goals we want to get to. Can we park that? And we can revisit it at a quarterly meeting to see if it's right for the next quarter. And it just seems to help because, you've been in organizations where the visionary just takes everyone around. One week we're on this system, then the next week he finds something else. And it's just hard. It's difficult to work in that environment and with all that change and chaos. So it's good to just, hone it down. It doesn't mean that we're, squelching the visionaries' creativity or their vision of things. We just want to make sure that we focus, because, it's like 1,000 beams of light go into, one thing, it's much stronger than all of it individually. So if you can just decide this quarter, we're going to really work on getting a new HR director or something like that. Then that's what we're going to do. And that's what we're going to work on. And then next quarter, maybe we can work on something different or what you've brought to the table. But I really think that's helpful.
Yeah, it's kind of centered a little around stage gate processing and as well. Or rocks, I think it was Dale Carnegie. And then Stephen Covey did it a lot too, when we would talk about it. So a lot of people don't realize that, they say rocks. Okay, what the heck is a rock? But a lot of people just don't even realize that psychologically we lose steam every 90 days, so the wave is like, it's so important. That's why people do quarterly stuff, right? It's like, okay, ramp the sales team every quarter, ramp the,
right.
And so it just totally makes sense. I love what you're doing with that. And it does help because shiny objects run all over the place, right?
Yes. Everybody loves them. But
everybody loves them. And, if you're, I call it ADD for visionaries.
Yes. Which they all have it. And I tell them straight up, there's no like that pretending. So it's definitely a trait that they all have.
But it's kind of the yin to the yang, right?
Absolutely.
It helps steer the ship and make sure it stays healthy. So wonderful thing. So I just have to ask you, okay, you were telling me about your favorite football team. So tell me about your football team.
Yes.
Who's your favorite one?
So I live in Cleveland. So obviously it's the Cleveland Browns. So we're big, sports fanatics in my house. So we're watching the Cleveland Browns and just got through watching the Cleveland Cavaliers season. I went to 25 of the 41 home games this year. So just love all of, the team sports and getting out to watch a game.
So I have to tease a little bit. So are you the reserve CPA, or are you standing up and shouting your head off at each of those
100% the second. Yeah. I love it. It started with watching my girls play sports and, nothing negative, but always positive. I love to do that.
What do they play?
That's part of the game. They played in high school volleyball and softball, and we were into everything. One of those, you just tried everything as you went along. But yeah, it was so fun.
Did you grow up in a family that did all of that too, or?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Although as we were talking before, like I was more of an individual sport growing up. So I did the tennis. I know you play tennis, and but yeah, my brother played, baseball. So we went to a lot of games.
Yeah. So you were a tennis player, and then because I'm a tennis player, who's your favorite right now?
I just go to, Serena. I mean, it's just I just can't, it's ridiculous what she can do every year.
Sure. Yeah.
So how about you?
Oh, honestly, the reason I like this person is because they are so amazing, but I like Federer.
Okay.
To me, he's a role model. If he doesn't win, he does because he's hurt or something. He just has somebody played a better game that day. He never throws a tantrum.
So cool. No.
And he's so good at his craft. And I look at sports characters more as kind of what kind of role model, what would I want my kids to do, and I love it I love to see how when people don't win, how they behave,
Absolutely.
And but no, other than that, it's just also his form is so amazing to me. And I don't know, and the fact that he got older and was still winning, which I'm like,
exactly.
So anyways, there's a lot of underlying things. We could talk about tennis all day, but I want more about, so you read Gino Wickman and all that kind of stuff, but what else do you do for fun? Like, do you just read more? What do you do?
I do like to read. I'm in a couple of different book clubs. So I like to discuss books. It also keeps you on track. Like when you're, in a book club, you're like, oh, I have to finish this. So you go on your Goodreads and you've got your, goal for the year. So you want to keep that up. And then I just like to get out and about. We have Cleveland's just breaking with the great weather. So I like to go outside and, take a walk and go on hikes and go to the parks and zoo and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, that's fun. That's so fun. And okay, so you're in a book club. I want to know, what is your book that you're on right now?
We are like on, I think it's called, it's something about a unicorn. Like it's a self-help book. It's like how to be a unicorn, I think is like, and it's like about how to find what's special about you and to kind of capitalize on that. So that's what I'm reading right now. Yeah,
that's totally fair.
Yeah,
and it would sound like you, because it's like systematize.
Yes,
I got a goal. I'm going to hit it.
That's very true.
Well, I have absolutely loved this, and I'm sure that the rest of the audience has loved learning about EOS and learning about making sure that they have budgets. What a relief. Don't procrastinate that, right? Because it is really a relief, actually.
You can do it.
And then, but they would love to know kind of one place that they could contact you.
Yeah, I'm at Sharon at eai.vision. EAI is the company that we kind of conglomerate some professionals on. So it's, again, you can go to the website, eai.vision, to learn more about it. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn as well as everyone. So
yeah, as well as everyone. That systematizes everything, right?
Exactly. You can't beat it.
You can't beat it. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you again, Sharon. And that's it today for the Revenue Maze. If you liked it, please like us on the podcast, on LinkedIn, on www.therevenuemaze.com. Share it. Give us feedback. We love hearing all of the things that you guys are doing to help get out of the revenue maze. And thanks again, Sharon. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you all for joining another great episode. For show notes, links, and resources, visit revenuemaze.com. And never forget, you are why.